Deep dive interviews with music gear inventors, builders, creators, and tone chasers. The Gear Gab Podcast with Eric Dahl uncovers the behind-the-scenes stories of the music gear that inspires us. And now, here's your host, Eric Dahl.
Welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have for my guest an old and dear friend of mine in the guitar music industry. He's not that old, but we just know each other a long time.
Pretty old.
I've got the one and only Brandon Foster, the managing director of Kepma Guitars USA. And Brandon, it's so good to have you on the show. You and I have been working in the music industry for a while now, and it's going to be fun, kind of delving into Kepma guitars, because certainly I've covered these products, I guess, since Tony first reached out to me. You know, who you work with also. And they're so innovative, and I know a lot of people still don't know about these guitars. But first off, Brandon, if you don't mind, tell our viewing and listening audience a little bit about your background in the music industry and kind of how far we go back with mutual friends.
Wow, that's a long time. I got started in the music industry. I live in St. Louis, and I was working for an advertising agency in St. Louis, and my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, saw an advertisement in the West County Journal for an advertising position in a music company. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty interesting. And it turns out that was St. Louis Music. And St. Louis Music was the manufacturer of crate amplifiers, Ampeg bass amps, Alvarez guitars, Alvarez Yairi. We had a string instrument division, and then a distribution division as well. It's a pretty good sized company. And so I applied for that job. That was in 1994, 95. And,
and you and I have talked too, because, we have so many, mutual friends,
right.
Brad and everybody else, because, I was living down in Cape Girardeau, Missouri at the time, Brandon, as you know. And so a lot of people, were working for St. Louis Music and then coming down and gigging.
Sure.
Playing shows in Cape Girardeau. Yeah. And so it was so much fun, and also, with a lot of the local music stores I had there in Cape Girardeau, like Keys Music and Shivelbines, that were carrying all of the St. Louis, music products, from the original crate amps that were actually in wooden crates.
Wooden crates, right.
And then, when I was, playing gigs there, I was using a boogie amp and a crate amp so I could run in stereo.
Oh, wow. You remember what it was?
Yeah. It was the club model. Beautiful amp. And the funny thing was, it was cream just like my boogie also.
Sure.
So it really worked out, and it sounded great. And then I could run in stereo, which everybody needs to do.
That's a lot of fun. So I worked there, for 15 years, I guess. I was there as an advertising and marketing director for the company. And back then, Tony Moskal, who is my partner in Kepma now, he was the Ampeg product manager.
Right.
And so we worked together.
That's where I first met Tony. It was through Ampeg.
Yeah, my very first NAMM show was with Tony. It was a lot of fun, I'll tell you. But yeah, that was a while back. And so anyway, after Gene sold the company to Loud Technologies, I worked for him for a couple more years, and then I decided to kind of move on. So then I went to IK Multimedia, because when I was at St. Louis Music, I contacted IK about creating a plugin for Ampeg, and it was like, they were doing all the amplitude plugins,
right?
But it wasn't a branded thing. It's like, oh, it sounds like a Fender amp, or it sounds like an Ampeg. So I contacted them and said, hey, you guys interested in doing a plugin for us, that will brand Ampeg? And they're like, heck yeah, we will. And so we started that project. And
and talking about IK too, which you and I knew each other through there. It's like I've covered so many of the IK multimedia products over the years.
Really neat.
But what I always enjoyed about them though too, Brandon, was that they're cost effective, and then they sound great. From their monitor speaker. I was just talking about their monitor speakers yesterday, the iLoud. And then the interfaces, and then like you were talking with the amplitude and everything else that I kept over the years. And so you were really with them at a prime time when they were
it's
pushing the industry.
Funny you say that, because we were the first branded plugin in the industry for the official thing. And then I was walking around the NAMM show with Enrico, the owner of the company, and Gary Kersner, and it's right when the iPhone came out, and we had done the Fender software at that point. Okay, so we worked with Shane Nicholas and did the whole Fender suite.
Oh yeah.
Look at this. How cool would this be if you could take that Fender software and have it on your phone, and you could plug your guitar into your phone and be able to pull up those sounds. We were walking around the show, and there was a little company that had this interface that they were using for a tuner that plugged into the original iPhone. I said, that's it right there. I mean, that's what we need to do. You just need to put it out on it so you can, hear what you're doing.
Right.
And that was the iRig that we came out
with. And the iRig, I turned, and introduced so many musicians onto the iRig.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, and I have so much of the IK product because, after I would cover them, it's like going, hey, can I buy this from you? And then use them, in the field and introduce other people to them. And even at the TV studio, we use the iLoud speakers.
Oh, yeah.
To where if we have to do a remote interview, those are the speakers we use because, they just sound great. But you were with the company, with IK Multimedia at a very up and coming time.
Very innovative. They had some really innovative stuff coming out at that point. I used to use those iLoud speakers. I'd set up a studio in our sunroom out here with my daughter, and we'd watch Peaky Blinders, and those were the main speakers.
They sound so good, but so then, how many years were you with IK before you moved on?
About 3.5, maybe 4 total, and then I ended up leaving there, and Tony Moskal, the partner in Kepma. This is where Kepma comes in. He called me up and he said, hey, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, actually not much right now. He goes, I got a project for you if you're interested. And I said, what is it? And he said, it's a Chinese guitar company. I said, absolutely not. And he goes, no, wait, let me send you a couple of these guitars. You play these things and then you call me back.
And I got to bring this up too, Brandon, to where, some of our viewers and listeners for the podcast may not realize, but you are an accomplished player, also and a musician, and you have a studio, you have instruments all over the house, much like I do, including around you right now and also in your music room. So for Tony to send you a couple guitars, he wants you to put them through the paces.
Right. And it was very eye-opening. He sent me these 2 guitars. He sent me one of the original ones that was like one of the first guitars that Kepma made, the model, and then a Grand Auditorium model after that. And I played them, and I'm just like, this is not a Chinese guitar company. These guys know what they're doing in terms of putting guitars together. The build quality was impeccable. It's just absolutely perfect. They were very high-end guitars. And I said, what are the prices on these things? And he told me, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. I'm in. Let's do this. So it took Tony, and let me back up just a little bit, because it took him about 3 years to wear them down to the point where they would allow us to bring them into the United States. Right. And it was funny because he met them he was on a buying trip. And Tony worked for Peavey after he left St. Louis Music. And then he left and started his own company where he was doing products for big box stores. So he was going to overseas, and he had the person that worked with him at Peavey to rubber stamp the factories and improve the factories to make Peavey products was helping him get factories lined up for his big box products. Okay.
Yeah.
And he had worked with her for like 10 years at Peavey, and they're on this trip, and she's like, oh, you need to meet my brother-in-law. He's got a guitar factory. And he's like, what are you talking about? I've worked with you for 10 years and you've never told me about this? And it turns out her brother-in-law was Jack Ping, who is one of the founders of Kepma. And he goes to the factory, and he's just completely blown away. You walk through the front doors of this factory, you go through an air shower to get all of any dust or particles or anything that's, just very high tech. He said there were like lasers and robots and all this technology that he'd never seen in a Chinese factory. He said it was a totally different world. He said you could walk into this factory, it could be anywhere in the world. It could be a German, it could be in the United States, it could be so he was quite impressed with it. And he started talking to him, and he's like, I'd never heard of your brand. And they said, right, we've never sold outside of our area.
Wow.
So he's like, well, can I bring them to, we're America, we need to bring them to the United States. They're like, no, we're good. He's like,
didn't have any real interest.
What do you mean? He goes, they said, we have 1.4 billion people in our country. That's our market. How big's your market? 300. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's cute.
Yeah. And we just opened another small country next to us called India, which is 1.8 billion people. So the market was huge. At the time, they were building about 25,000 guitars a month, I believe, and they were back ordered like 40,000 guitars.
Right.
So they're definitely one of the larger brands, privately held brands in the music industry that nobody's ever heard of.
Yeah.
So Tony finally wears them down, and they say, okay, here's a container. Good luck. And so we got our first container of guitars, introduced them at the NAMM show, in the summer NAMM show of 2018, I think. And then we went out to the 2019 or not 2019 or 2020, I can't remember, but Anaheim show and in California, and introduced them there. And we've just been working on it ever since, just trying to sign up dealers and get people to spread the word about Kepma. I mean, they're
it was so interesting too, because I think it was around that time as well, Brandon, when Tony reached out to me. I think probably 2018. I know it was before the 2020 NAMM show that we were all at. But it was interesting because he's like going, because it was almost the same pitch. He's like, just try this out. It's like, I'm going to bring one by the TV station. Give it a shot, Eric. And I'm like going, and then I play it. I'm like going, and I was like you. Yeah. I was just, flabbergasted at how great the guitar played and sounded. Yeah. And then also, we're going to bring it up later, but it's like, but I think the website that you have for Kepma Guitars does such a great job too, showing all the videos and everything, Brandon, on the factory, on the innovations and everything like that. And once again, even talking about the models, to where I think what Kepma has done that's really innovative, and that, more guitar companies are getting into, and you and I were talking about before we started the show today, was the AcoustiFex, to where built-in, effects within the acoustic guitar body.
Correct. Yeah.
To where, and it's like, and they sounded great. It's like when you guys brought one by for me to, review and write articles and everything on. And I kept it in the office and I was showing it to everybody.
That's it's one of the little hidden tools that I use when I'm showing it to artists as well. So when I go down to Nashville, I'll bring them a guitar and I won't turn it on. And they'll play the guitar, and it's like, wow, this is a great playing instrument. I said, hang on just a second. Push the button, and they start playing, and you have reverb and delay and a chorus coming out of the sound hole with not being plugged into anything.
Right.
And like, how's this? What is this? I said, it's just magic. Don't worry about it. Just don't ask any questions. But it's neat. It's got a little transducer that mounts to the inside back of the guitar. It's a little tiny thing. I think I even have one right here somewhere. Well, no, I don't. Sorry, I chipped it off to somebody. But it just mounts to the inside back of the guitar, and it uses the back of the wood, the wood of the back of the guitar, to project that the reverb and the delay and the chorus out through the sound hole. So it really, the back soundboard acts as an amplifier for those effects that come out. It's really pretty amazing. And then when you plug it in, you have an undersaddle piezoelectric pickup, as well as a condenser microphone that you can blend in, so you really get a nice big sound out of the acoustic when you're plugged in as well, and you get the effects too.
Right. And that's what I was going to bring up, Brandon, to where, especially, for so many singer-songwriters, who are doing solo, gigs or coffee shops or whatever, to where back in the day, when I was, playing back in Southeast Missouri and Las Vegas, you had to take a pedal board to do all that. Even though you may just be playing an acoustic guitar, sure, it was a full-on board.
Oh yeah.
To have your sound effects. And then when Kepma comes out with this, and you can have everything inside the guitar, so whether you're plugged in or not, you have effects under your voice. Right. And it's pretty astounding. But also, I wanted to bring up, the build quality, and you and I were talking about it, Brandon, and certainly I've played a lot of the models of Kepma, to where the different woods, the attention to detail, these aren't just, the company really makes quality boutique instruments, just not in the U.S.
Right. They let's back up just a little bit. The two founders of the company are engineers. They've known each other since I guess the Chinese equivalent of kindergarten. That's where they met, and they're basically brothers for the most part, even though they're from different parents. But they grew up together, went to engineering school, and got out, and they were trying to figure out what they wanted to do. And they both love playing guitar. They're scientists. They love the study of wood and all of that. And so they decided to start this company, and because there was a hole in the market in China. There were very expensive American-made guitars that you could buy that were $5,000 or more because of all the the different tariffs and everything that they put on them, or they're the cheap ones that some of the American brands were manufacturing there. That, hey, I can get this down the street $5 cheaper, that kind of thing. So there was a huge quality issue or disparity in the market.
Right.
And so they targeted that center part where let's build a very high quality guitar, but make it accessible to everybody in our country. And that was basically the founding of the company at that point. And they when they first started in 2009, they built one model of the guitar. It was a Dreadnought. You couldn't get it in a different color. It was a natural finish, and then it was a laminated back and sides, but a solid spruce top. And they worked on that model for about a year, and then they released it into the market. And what they were doing was building the process on how to precisionally manufacture an acoustic guitar. Is what they were doing.
Right.
And so they introduced that product into their market, and it just exploded because it was a great quality guitar that was accessible that everybody could afford. And that's how they got to be so big so fast.
Well, and one of the first things I noticed too, with you and Tony on it, Brandon, was, you can tell even from like the headstock, and I know, not how you typically want to pick your guitars, but it's a quality headstock. You've got quality, machine head tuners, and just looking at that superficially before you look into the woods and the neck and the playability and everything else, they're really, right there. It's, you've got the crown, you've got the Kepma headstock. You've got the rosette, and the fretboard inlays, which, Kepma has become very well known for doing unique inlays with the flower, with the rose, and with the dolphins and everything else, and even the phoenix, that I have over, to my side here. But it's like it's interesting how that evolution has happened with the company. But also, you and I were talking, Brandon, about how many more artists are playing them now.
Oh yeah, we've got
where you have artists reaching out to you, going, "Hey, I heard this, I played a buddy's. How do I get my hands on one of these?"
Funny you say Buddy, because Buddy Cannon is one of our artists who plays it. He and let's see, we have Mac McAnally, who Mac and Peter May are both, Mac from the Coral Reefer Band, if you don't know who he is. But Mac has been the CMA Musician of the Year for the past 11 years in a row.
Oh my gosh, I had him on the show this year or last year, and it's like so many awards. You could do a whole interview just on. I'm just going to list your awards, Mac. And all the songs that he wrote for Jimmy Buffett and everybody else. And as you know, Brandon, now he is producing other artists.
Sure.
So not a bad one to have on your roster.
Yeah, he's a good. We talked about doing a custom, model of his, and he goes, usually if you put my name on something, the value is going to go down.
Mac is one of those guys that is so humble, but also he's such an amazing, musician.
He is. I met him and Peter out here at Riverport actually one afternoon, because I was bringing him a couple of our mini guitars, and it was just amazing to sit there and watch them play. It was Mac and Peter and Will Kimbrough, and which is the guitar power trio of that.
Yeah,
band.
It's like the holy trinity of songwriters.
Exactly, and just to sit there and they let me film a little bit of it, but actually I filmed a lot more than I should have, but. It was just amazing to watch those guys do that. Just pick it up and
Well, and you brought up something too that I wanted to touch on, Brandon, about the travel guitar model. I think you guys first showed that at last year's NAMM show, and you had like a separate station, at your booth just for that, and that those played and sounded so great as well. And I know those have done very well for Kepma.
Yeah, we've they've done some pretty interesting stuff with that guitar. It's got kind of a rounded back on it, which is a harder thing to do. What it does is it really makes that guitar a lot louder and really balanced, and projects it, or the sound projects a lot better out of it because of that slight shape. It's not like the Ovation round back, or anything like that, but it's just a slight curve to it. But and it's a cutaway too, which is great. And most of the 3/4 size guitars are not cutaways, and the FC Minis are. And they're available with, they have a solid torrefied top on them, and you could get either rosewood or mahogany, or you can also get a mahogany top, solid top.
Right. I really, the ones, and I played them all, of course. Yeah. I really preferred the mahogany top with the mahogany back and sides, just because it warmed it up for the sides.
Yep. And it snaps it too. It's got a very articulate, sound to it. The notes are articulate.
Well, and that's what's interesting also with Kepma, like you said, as they've come into the market more and they're, being more accepted, and certainly you have a lot more music stores carrying them also, Brandon.
Correct.
But I was going to bring up the Phoenix model
Mm-hmm.
that you guys introduced that is now, getting out to the public more, and really, a pretty cost-efficient guitar, but it also plays and sounds great too. Because I know the one that I've had on loaner to write some magazine reviews on just plays and sounds great.
Yeah, it does. It's again, that's another solid top guitar. It's solid torrefied, and it's a full size grand auditorium model that has the AcoustiFex built into it.
Mm-hmm.
Comes with a gig bag, and it's $399.
Yeah, you can't beat that. And also, did I mention, one second, I'll show it.
Yep.
It also has the Phoenix logo, right here inlaid into it. And it's like, I mean, what a great value in an incredible guitar right there. You can see it. And I mean, it's just, it plays and sounds great.
Yeah.
And it really lets people, intermediate musicians or whatever, even if you just want to pick up a guitar that you don't want to take your vintage guitar out, you can take a Phoenix, by Kepma. And
sure.
And you have the effects.
Yeah, that pickup system is a little bit different too, because it's got the OTG port. The charging port is also a recording port if you have a data cable that you want to plug into your phone. But you can also stream music from your phone via Bluetooth to that guitar, and it'll play through either when you're unplugged, it plays out of the sound hole, or plugged in, it'll go through the output jack. So you can actually.
I already did that.
I had a learning tool, Oh
my gosh, yeah, because you know what I did on it, and what just music gear geeks that we are, to where I loaded in like a blues track, Brandon. Oh yeah. And then I was jamming to the blues track.
Sure.
I would just pick different keys. I'm like, well, that's pretty fun. But I also want to talk about, with the different designations that Kepma does that some people may not understand, to where it's like in the GA1, to where you've got the 120, 130, 140, 150. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the model number system is actually, it's very intuitive once you understand how it works. And basically, the model starts off with the body shape. So we have 4 different body shapes, really, for the most part. We've got standard dreadnought, we've got a grand auditorium, we have an orchestra size, and then we have 3/4 size minis. Okay, that's sort of the layout there. Yeah. So the model is the GA1 series would be a grand auditorium series. The 1 means that it's an all solid construction guitar. So you have a solid spruce top, or in a solid mahogany back and sides, or a solid rosewood back and sides.
Yeah.
So the rosewood would be the 120 model. So GA1 120 would tell you that it's a solid grand auditorium and with the rosewood back and sides. And if there's an A model or an A letter after that, it comes with the AcoustiFex pickup system.
Gotcha. Now, what does the GA2 mean then?
GA2 is two different. Well, it's a different type of construction. It is a solid top, but it's a laminated back and sides.
Oh, okay.
GA2 would be, solid top, laminated back and sides. GA2 120 would be rosewood. Mm-hmm. So it's a laminated rosewood back and sides. And then if you have an A, then you have the AcoustiFex. If you see a GA3, then that is an all laminate guitar. It's usually in the lower end of the line, but it is it's an all laminate guitar. So you have the laminated spruce top and then laminated mahogany back and sides.
I wanted to bring up something else too, Brandon. Once again, you and I have been, you certainly working with Kepma, and myself, reviewing and playing the instruments over the years. One of the things I'm so thrilled that they did, in the past here, was where they changed the battery system.
Oh yeah,
to make that rechargeable with a USB-C plug-in.
Right. And
then you had mentioned also with the Phoenix, to where you are able to record out with it and everything like that, or plug into it. But recharging, to me, it's like I told you, I plugged in one of the guitars last night, while I was doing some review stuff, and you can see the battery readout, on the screen.
Oh yeah.
To tell you, how much power you have.
And it's the batteries are the 18650 lithium ion batteries, and they last, depending on which model pickup you have, it'll last up to about 30 hours of continuous playing time.
Wow.
Which is great, because then you just plug it back in, and you have plenty of warning before the battery goes out. The light goes from green to kind of a yellow, and then if it turns kind of red, it's time to charge it. So,
well, and I wanted to bring up also, Brandon, we were talking about one of the new models, and you guys got a great write-up in Music Inc. Oh, yeah. And I was reading that article last night to where, and I think you were quoted in it also, but about the Lamplight guitar, which, I have one of those currently on loan to cover that. And, if you could, and you told me this at the NAMM show, but for our viewers and listeners, Brandon, can you kind of take us through the uniqueness of this guitar from the inlays to the whole build of this instrument?
Yes. So this was kind of a first for Kepma, and I don't think they really wanted to send us these guitars, but we begged them because they're unique. The inlays on them that go up the fretboard they're inspired by a famous Chinese poem that basically says that you find your greatest inspiration as the lights start to dim towards the end of the day, when you're either alone or you're in a lower light situation. That's when your inspiration and your creativity is at its highest. And so that's how they represented that on the fretboard. And the frets are supposed to be windows of a high rise.
Right. Kind of yeah. I mean, you can't really see it that well in the video, but definitely, when people go and visit the website.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, the game changer for me last night, and it also caused me to go to bed much later, and I blame you, Brandon, was when I started digging into the drums.
The pickup system.
The pickup system, to where it's like, not only do you have, the choice of a metronome, but also, you've got, from R&B, funk, country, rock, jazz, all these different drum patterns.
Oh yeah,
built into it.
So the neat thing about that, it's pretty expansive. The drum patterns you can add more in through the app that comes along with this. But the pickup system basically it's got the tuner, it's got the metronome, it's got a drum machine, it's got a looper in it that allows you to go in and lay down multiple tracks. Mm-hmm. And then it plays in real time too. So it's very intuitive, pretty easy to use. But there's also an app that you can go in and customize you can customize the EQ curves of the guitar itself. And what else can you do in there? I think that's about it.
I'm gonna have to play with the looper, because I got stuck having fun with the drums.
Oh, okay.
And then also I was adjusting, the different sounds with the chorus and delay and reverb and everything, which I've used on a number of different Kepma guitars. But having that drum deal, and I'm about to try it out in the app also. Yeah. And so so you can trigger it when you want to, because from doing, from gigging out, in Vegas and everywhere, you always had like a foot pedal trigger. Yep. But you can trigger it off your phone.
Right. You can create tone profiles and different effects combinations. When you open the app, you have access to a few other effects in addition to just the reverb, delay, and the chorus that are on the control panel itself. And then you can go in and custom apply the chain, basically just like an effects pedal.
Right.
And you can apply different levels and speed of delay, or whatever you want to tweak, and then you can save it into that particular slot in the preamp, so you don't have to have the app on all the time.
Well, and one of the things that wowed me on it too, when I was playing it last night, was how easy and intuitive the screen is. Because you've got the two arrows to where you can shift things. You've got your volume control and everything, because I was bringing down the volume so I could play guitar, and also because everybody else was asleep in the house. Right. And so, and then now I'm jamming away in here, in the music room, but it's like the screen just is very intuitive. It's not like, some of these electronics on guitars to where it's more challenging to navigate them. Because I think, especially as you and I know, and, with all the musicians, that are playing the Kepma guitars, to where when you're on stage, whether you're doing a live performance or you're playing in a songwriter round or whatever, you don't want to chew up time trying to figure out your guitar.
Oh, exactly. There's sometimes too much. You can have too much. Yeah.
Right. Well, there have been brands, as we both know over the years, Brandon, to where it's like going, they give you too many choices. I'm like, going, oh my gosh. Right. It's like, I've got 100 choices. I just need 3.
Right. Exactly.
Give me 3 good ones, But I think that with Kepma also, though, like we were talking with the sound effects, is that you can really dial in how much you want, because like I like having chorus and I mean, and the lamp light guitar sounds so incredible, but a little bit of reverb, but I mean, you can really tweak the effects to your taste.
Yeah, and it really changes the sound a lot. I mean, it gives you for me, when I'm playing, it inspires me to do something totally different than just picking up a guitar. I mean,
it's funny too. It's like, and for last night when I was, working with them again, to where it's like I would play. I did the same trick that you do whenever you're taking them to artist. It's like I was playing it with nothing turned on, and then I kick it in. I'm like going, oh my gosh! It's so full to where when you play a regular guitar that doesn't have, the AcoustiFex, then it's like going, okay, where's the rest of it?
Yeah, anymore. It's a funny story. There was a dealer who had the one that you could string Bluetooth to, and he recorded a thing on his phone. It's like, hey, kid, you come here. And then he streamed it to a guitar that was across the room. When a guy walked by, and it just totally freaked him out. This guitar is talking to me. So.
That is amazing. I mean, and I've got to bring this up too. With the years that you've been with Kepma now, which I guess like
6, 7 years. 8
yeah,
years.
Yeah, I was going to say like 8 years. It seems like they're really becoming better known as instruments, and also people are appreciating the quality of them. And as I mentioned to you, when I've had people come in to the TV studio to do that show, like different musicians just automatically grab it and play it.
Oh, yeah.
And they're always impressed.
Yeah, they're starting to get recognized, and people are taking them serious, which is, it's hard. And there's a certain perception that people have about certain instruments manufactured, where they're manufactured, and all that. But like I said when we started this, I mean, if you walked into this factory, you would think it could be anywhere. I mean, it's not. Location meant nothing, because they had there are 10 Plek machines in China right now. We have 7 of them. So,
oh my gosh!
Yeah, they're all
and Plek machines are not cheap.
No, they're not. But
and for our listeners and viewers that don't know, I mean, the Plek machine is a machine that will go in and it puts like tension on the guitar neck, and then it makes sure that all of the frets and the nut and the bridge saddle and everything are right,
perfectly flat.
Yeah, whereas before you would have had a craftsman or a luthier to go in and do this, which takes a lot more time. And with the Plek machine, which, Joe Glazer adjusts a lot of these since he worked with them from the beginning, does this all in a machine and, in minutes.
Yeah, Joe's pretty happy that we have 7 machines.
How bad he is. That's always the funny thing too, because like even when you go over to Joe Glazer's shop, there's a Plek machine right in the front.
Right.
Just off to the left. It's like going, it's kind of like a museum for guitar repair and working. But 7 of the Plek machines. Well, and I wanted to bring up also, Brandon, with Kepma, I know that you and Tony have been working to get them into more music stores.
Correct.
Throughout the U.S. And it's certainly expanded. And I know that's not an easy thing to do because, with the brick and mortar stores, which, when I write articles or do coverage on instruments, I always suggest that people go and play them.
Oh, yeah.
It's one thing to see them. It's one thing to hear a video of them and everything, but you got to get your hands on one.
You do.
And I know that you guys have been expanding that network a lot.
Yeah, we just brought on a national sales manager who's been in the industry for 40 some odd years, longer than us probably. His name is Marty Kloska, and he was from Chicago. He worked for Guitar Center for a very long period of time. He was a regional manager in the Chicagoland area for Guitar Center, and then decided to make a change and went to Sam Ash and did the same thing for Sam Ash in the Chicago area.
Wow.
And recently, when Sam Ash made their announcement, he posted something on LinkedIn, and Tony saw it and immediately contacted him and said, "Hey, Marty, we got this deal going. It's Kepma. It's always going to let me send you a couple of guitars," just like he did me, basically.
Right. And then he hooked him.
He hooked him. He was living in North Carolina. He and his wife had moved to North Carolina, and he's like, you know what? Yeah, okay, I want to do this with you guys. And so he started hiring reps that he knew,
Wow.
And it's growing now. I mean, it's growing well. We're really strong we have a lot of dealers in the Southeast because that's kind of where our initial rep group started, where we hired some reps down there. Tony did. And then Marty is now expanding up into the Midwest, into we have a new rep out in Utah right now who's doing amazing stuff. He opened this one little music store, Cedar City Music, I believe. I can't remember where they are. They're somewhere in Utah, I believe. But he sent a story to us the other day that said, this girl came in. She had $700 she was going to spend on a guitar, and they put the GA2 140 model in her hands, which is our Koa, solid top Koa back inside the hard shell case. And she walked out with a $1,400 guitar. Like, wow. And
I think that's happened to me. I haven't been in that guitar shop, but that has happened to me before.
Oh, yeah. And they said, how did you do it? And they said, we just put the guitar in her hands. And she started playing it. We turned on the AcoustiFex, and it was like, oh, sold. I mean,
I also wanted to bring up on this, Brandon, to where, for people, guitar players and everyone, listening and watching the show, to where if they want, to get Kepma guitars into their music store or the music store that they go to or take lessons from or just buy from, what's the methodology for them to try and get Kepma in there?
Oh, it's very easy. They contact us. It's either through the website, or we have all of our dealer contact info on the website. So they just fill out a form on the web, and they would. I'd get that. I'd send it to Marty. Marty assign a rep to it, or call him himself and set him up as a retailer. And there's really not we don't have a big, strong buying program where you have to buy, $18,000 worth of guitars.
It's not like the old floor plans of the day.
No, not at all. I mean, you can buy one to get into your store to try them out. We suggest more than one. There's a little bit better pricing tier for retailers if you buy more, obviously.
Definitely. Well, I got to ask you this, Brandon. I don't want to put you on the spot, but any new innovations coming out from Kepma this year that you can tell us about ahead of time before we see or play them?
Well, the lamplight is the one that we introduced at the NAMM show. So that's the main innovation. There's some other ones that we don't know if it's going to happen this year or not. So I can't tell you this.
Okay.
I can't tell you because we don't know when it's going to happen. So but they're working with some new innovative designs on the insides of the guitar that'll optimize even the sound a little bit more than what traditionally is thought of. And then, well, I can't tell you.
Didn't mean to put you on the spot, but usually you're in the know. But also, are you guys going to be at some other guitar shows and everything? Over there. I know you're always at the NAMM show.
We're always at NAMM. We're going to
have an incredible booth placement there too on the floor.
We're doing the Key West Songwriters Festival down in Key West. We do one in Maryland as well, so we're involved in those. Not necessarily guitar shows, but more events, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's it's so great too. I noticed that you have your Kepma shirt on. I'm wearing a NAMM show, today, but I wear my Kepma shirts that I got from you. But it's just I want to make sure for our audience, to where if they want to go to the website and the social media and everything else to be able to get a better understanding of all of the different Kepma guitar models, where do you suggest they go to, Brandon?
Go to our website. It's KepmaUSA.com. Or you can go in social media. We are Kepma USA Official, I believe, is what the handle is for those.
And also, once again, I would recommend to our, if you're checking out the show with Gear Gab, be sure and get your hands on one of the Kepma guitars, because I think that's where it's going to make the difference. And you can pull the Brandon trick also, to where start playing it without the effects, then engage the effects, hit the button on top, and have some fun with it. And once again, I was going to say with the L1 AcoustiFex system, Brandon, that's really just a game changer to not only have the effects, but the looper and the different drum patterns. Yeah, and then if you engage that with the app from your smartphone too, it's a pretty powerful setup.
It is. It really, you can become a one-man band pretty quickly that way. There is a retailer locator on our website. It's under the where to buy. If you click where to buy, it'll pull it up and you can see if there's a retailer in your area. We also we do sell instruments off of our website. It's a free shipping and a 30-day money back guarantee if you want to, if there's not a retailer in the area, but you want to try it out. So
I didn't even know that. Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks for sharing that, Brandon.
Mhm.
And what I was thinking too, as I was, delving into Kepma before I knew we were going to do this interview, was they should consider maybe like an acoustic amp or maybe some acoustic pedals. They could even do like some different body shapes. I mean, things are going well.
We've got a lot of accessories coming soon. So that is an innovation that I could tell you because they're not here yet. But we are bringing. Kepma makes all kinds of different accessories, picks and straps and stands, and they have their own line of strings as well. But most of the guitars that we bring in here to the United States are equipped with the Elixir strings or Diodarias, one of the two, the coated strings. But they do on the lower end have their own proprietary coated string that they put on the less expensive guitars.
So more things. I want to bring this up too, to where the first time, I borrowed one of the Kepma guitars to cover it, and I thought it was so cool with the little box that came with it. With the picks and with the truss rod wrench and everything. Yeah, just like there. And it's like it was classy. You know what I mean? It made it feel more like a special instrument instead of just these things being thrown into like a plastic bag or
Right. It comes with there's a polishing cloth in there, a truss rod adjustment. You get 2 extra bridge pins, a couple of picks. I think that's it.
Yeah, I think so. But it felt classy. It felt like a gift box, that came with your guitar.
Yeah,
and I got to bring up too, also with the gig bags that you guys launched, I think within the past couple of years. I really like the gig bags, and of course the hard cases are top notch as well.
Yeah, the hard case we did with Tom over at TKL, and
isn't Tom great?
He is great. He went to the Kepma factory, and he was just like, "What?" He was blown away.
My silly Tom story, because I'm going to have him on the show also, was at the NAMM show, and I see him there, and I sit down and just start talking with him. And then, he's quizzing me on what I do, and then I'm quizzing him on what he does. And everybody that walks by the table stops and talks to Tom.
Oh, yeah.
Because building those cases and just his vision for it. And then, just the interesting people that you meet at NAMM and guitar shows. But thanks so much, Brandon, for joining us and talking about Kepma. And I want to make sure for our viewers and listeners of the show, go to the website, check out the social media, but also get one of these Kepma guitars in your hands, especially with the AcoustiFex. You're going to be as wowed as I am with them. And once again,
thanks.
Brandon Foster, thanks for coming on the show. We'll have to do this again when you're not embargoed on what you can talk about, okay?
Good deal. That's a deal.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thanks for joining the Gear Gab Podcast with Eric Dahl. Subscribe to our weekly conversations on your favorite platform. And if you like what you hear, don't forget to leave us a review. Follow us on social media at Gear Gab Podcast. You'll never know who our next guests will be.